Doug Turnbull here at Mars Pirate Radio, the nexus of science, science fiction, and the future. Tonight, I will be discussing an issue that I believe is vital to the preservation of our republic. I'm referring to the ostentatious display of religious faith by the wearing of religious garb and jewelry. As a devout atheist, I resent this practice and regard it as a personal insult. The mainstream media rarely discuss this important issue, choosing instead to distract us with talk about the economy, unemployment, foreign affairs, and other such trivia. But along with my fellow atheists, and there are several of us, I regard these displays as a violation of my First Amendment right to be free from religion. Or is it freedom of? Well, no matter. We have a right to be free of it, and these zealots are deliberately assaulting that right. They would argue that the First Amendment protects them, but I ask you, does their right trump my right? I say no, it does not. My right trumps theirs. This pressing issue has been deliberately ignored by the major presidential candidates, both of whom dubiously claim to be Christians. In fairness to Mr. Trump, he did enter a medieval cathedral one time, just before he bought it and converted it to a luxury hotel. Similarly, Mrs. Clinton dutifully attended church with her husband once, and wisely ignored his attempt to set up a threesome for Christ with a couple of choir girls. But I submit these claims of piousness are simple pandering to a majority who also claim to be people of faith. But what about my faith, or the lack of it? What about me? Don't I have a God-given? No, wait, check that, constitutional right, not to be insulted? What about that, Mr. or Mrs. I want to be president? As Thomas Jefferson said, or maybe it was Madison or Paine. Anyway, it was one of those ponytail dudes. And I quote, "A tyranny of the majority is still a tyranny." At least it was something like that anyway. Just because you believers are a huge majority doesn't make it okay for you to do insulting things. In fact, Princeton or Harvard or one of those Ivy League colleges, you know, the ones with the crummy football teams, define such displays in their student manual as maybe it's macro. I always get those two mixed up. No matter, we'll go with micro. Microaggressions. Notice the word aggression? That's what we're talking about here. And if the people who run those colleges say it's true, it must be. I mean, you have to be really smart to run a college, don't you? Whoops. Well, that ought to tell you how seriously I take all this. I almost spilled my highball. So, people, no more microaggressions. Stow that religious stuff where decent atheists like me can't see it. You Muslim gals, lose that burqa thingy, or at least cover it up with a hat or a hoodie or something. Veils are out too. Unless you have bad teeth or are homely, then it's okay. Orthodox Jews, skip the goofy hats, black suits, and the long beards. That stuff screams aggression. Besides, it makes you look like you're Amish. Catholics, cover up those crucifixes. And this means you too, Padre, get rid of the turned around collar. Buddhists and Hare Krishnas, go to Goodwill or someplace and get yourself some decent threads. Those robes are just too much. And you Jehovah's Witnesses, walking around carrying your Bibles and knocking on people's doors, I'm on to you too. You pretend you want to save my soul, but you're really just trying to rack up points by getting over on an atheist. In each case, the wearer is sending a subliminal message. You thought I'd blow that one, didn't you? No way. I practiced that word for 30 minutes last night. Subliminal. Anyway, the message is, I'm devout and you're not. It's insulting. I'm devout too, just in a different way. I devoutly don't believe in anything. So there. You're insulting my faith. I mean, if an Indian, make that Native American, can get all up in some blonde's face because she's wearing a feather in her hair, I can sure get a little huffy when you insult my faith. That's only fair. All of you people, you need to cut it out. And that's one man's opinion. This concludes episode 136 of Mars Pirate Radio, the nexus of science, science fiction, and the future. Tune in next time when I will be discussing another important social issue, bathrooms. By the way, if I've failed to offend one or more of my listeners, please leave a note in the comments section. I promise not to forget you next time. Until then, this is the Mars Pirate bidding you farewell.